Welcome to this Audacity tutorial for beginners. If you want to get started in voiceover, produce audiobooks or podcasts, or improve your audio with Audacity, this tutorial is for you. This is an extensive Audacity tutorial for beginners. In the past few years, I have helped hundreds of my students succeed in voiceover and publishing audiobooks using the same method I show in this video. I will cover all the necessary concepts to start using Audacity confidently, and you can see which topics are covered in this video. At first, we will learn how to record your voiceover in Audacity. Success in professional voiceover depends on recording quality, and there are a few things you must ensure. Recording in Audacity seems quite simple, but there is a catch. You can see a red record button here. If you press it, the recording starts, and you can see the audio waveform appear in the timeline. But that's not the correct way to record your voice in Audacity. You have to take care of certain things before you record. Because your final audio quality depends on your recording quality. You have to make sure you are capturing the best possible audio in your situation. There are several things you need to take care of. For example, you have to select the correct microphone, set the proper recording channel, and set the proper input level. It looks like quite a lot of things, but they are actually quite simple. Let's see those one by one. The first thing you need to do is make sure the correct device is selected for recording. You can do that from the Audio Setup button. If you go to Audio Setup, you'll see an option called Recording Device. In the recording device, you'll see a list of microphones connected to your computer. Not all the microphone names may make sense, but do not worry about that. Look for your microphone name on the list. Notice if there is a tick mark beside your microphone name. However, if you do not see your microphone on the list, you have to reskin audio devices. If Audacity is open first, and then you connect the microphone, Audacity won't detect it. If you reskin audio devices, Audacity will recognize all connected microphones. Then, from the recording device list, select your microphone. The tick mark beside the name denotes which microphone is currently selected. For example, in my case, you can see that Scarlett 2i2 USB is selected. Scarlett 2i2 is actually my audio interface. I have a Sennheiser E845 microphone connected through the Scarlett 2i2 audio interface. When an audio interface is used, Audacity or any software program will show the audio interface name. So, if I select Scarlett 2i2 USB, any microphone connected to that interface will be selected for recording. If you are using a different interface or using a USB mic, you will see a different name. You have to understand what name your microphone is showing on the list. Selecting a microphone is as simple as clicking the name on the list. For example, let's say I want to use the MacBook Pro microphone. If I click on it, it will be selected. I can now verify it by going to Audio Setup again, and we see the tick mark is beside the MacBook Pro microphone. That's how you select your microphone. I'll now switch back to Scarlett 2i2 USB, as that is the microphone I will be using for this recording. You should make a good habit of checking the selected microphone from the Audio Setup button before every recording session. Otherwise, it is a very common issue with recording in the wrong microphone. That would be quite frustrating if you were doing a serious or long recording. Because during recording, you can't see which microphone is currently selected for recording. There is a way to prevent such mistakes. Go to View, Toolbars, and enable Device Toolbar. Currently, there is no tick mark beside the device toolbar, which means it is not showing. Once you enable the device toolbar, a new toolbar appears where you can see the selected microphone in a drop-down list. After selecting the microphone, the next thing you need to do is set the recording channel. You can set the recording channel from the device toolbar or from the Audio Setup button. In the Audio Setup, you can find this in the drop-down menu under Recording Channels. My audio interface supports 2 channels, mono and stereo. Depending on your recording device, you can see either these options or only mono or more than 2 options. For voiceover, you should choose mono. Mono recording channel keeps things simple. You don't need to use stereo. Stereo recordings can make things more complicated, as they may cause audio to appear on only one side of your headphones if not set up properly. To avoid such issues, select the mono recording channel. If you are into audiobooks, this mono or stereo channel can become very important. The page you see now is from the ACX Audio Requirements. ACX is a platform where you can narrate audiobooks for Amazon or Audible. The main point is that your audio has to meet certain quality standards to be accepted in ACX. In these recommendations, you will see a specific guideline to choose mono or stereo. All the audio files of an audiobook have to be either mono or stereo, but cannot be both. As I said earlier, choosing the mono channel keeps things simple. In professional voiceover, you may get requirements to submit audio in mono or stereo. If you record in mono, you can easily convert to stereo if required. The bottom line is you should choose a mono recording channel. If you want to learn Audacity in detail, I have a special program called Audacity Bundle. Audacity Bundle is a set of courses, pre-built macros, and custom EQ. While the Audacity courses are better for learning, the macros make your job easier. You can process your audio with just a click with the macros. The custom EQ can bring the best result for your audio. Everyone's audio is different and needs a different EQ to enhance its full quality. In the Audacity Bundle, I will do that for you. I will also check your recording and give you important feedback on what is wrong and what should be fixed. If your purpose is professional voiceover, audiobook narration, podcasting, or content creation voiceover, the Audacity Bundle is an all-in-one solution. I will put the link in the description and in the pinned comment. Back to the tutorial. Now that we've selected the microphone and recording channel, the next step is to check your audio settings. Generally, you don't need to change anything here, but it's good practice to verify that your project sample rate and default sample format are correct. For example, the project sample rate should be 44.1 kHz, which is the default. A microphone captures an analog signal, but a computer needs digital data to store and play the audio. A project sample rate indicates how many samples of the analog signal are to be made during the digital conversion. You may say that the more samples, the better the audio would be, but that is not the case. If you set the sample rate too high, like 96,000 Hz, it will consume unnecessary disk space without giving you any benefit for voiceover work. Because our computer hardware may not be suited for the higher sample rate, or the difference is so insignificant in voiceover work that it is not noticeable. Don't change it unless you know what you're doing, or why you need a different sample rate other than 44.1 kHz. Many people change it without understanding why, which can lead to problems. On the other hand, if you set it too low, like 8,000 or 16,000 Hz, your audio quality will suffer. So, the optimal rate is 44.1 kHz. Next, check the default sample format. It should be 32-bit float. You shouldn't change that either. Recording in 32-bit float gives you more headroom, preventing clipping or distortion. To keep things simple, just leave it as it is. Though there is no need to change the default values, I discussed it for an important reason. As a beginner, you may struggle to get a clean audio at the beginning. You may search for the reason why you are not getting as good audio as others. Some tutorials may mislead you into thinking that the sample rate and format are the issue. However, that is not the case. If your audio is not of super quality, then there can be many reasons, like the microphone, recording technique, the recording room, etc. You should get professional quality audio with a sample rate of 44.1 kHz and a sample format of 32-bit float. You only need to check once that your sample format and rate are okay. It will remain in these settings unless you deliberately change it. Once everything is set, click OK. We will now check another very important setting before recording, the recording level. You'll see two meters here. The top one is the record meter, and the bottom one is the playback meter. If you click on the microphone icon and enable silent monitoring, you'll see a green bar moving. That's your current recording level. You can drag these meters to make them bigger. A bigger meter allows you to see more details of the level your audio is hitting. While you are talking into the microphone, the levels should be between -18 dB and -6 dB. If your audio levels are in that range, that means you are getting good enough audio signals, and it is easy to process later. If your audio gets into the red region, there is a chance of distortion or clipping. Notice the maximum level on this meter is 0. If your level is more than 0 dB, you cannot see it, but your audio will be clipped or distorted. The most important factor here is your distance from the microphone. During recording, the distance from your mouth to the mic should be 4 to 8 inches. If you are too close, then it will have a proximity effect, resulting in plosives, excessive mouth noise, and bass-heavy sound. Being too far away will result in thin audio full of sound reflections. So to get the best quality recording, you should be at a proper distance from the mic, and the level should be between -18 and -6. If you are at a proper distance from the mic, but failing to reach the levels or recording in the red zone, the gain knob on your microphone or audio interface needs adjustment. You may need to increase or decrease the gain depending on the situation. The last item in the pre-recording checklist is the playback device. It is the last drop-down in the device toolbar. The playback device is not important during recording unless you are using live monitoring. Live monitoring means hearing the audio live during recording. I do not recommend live monitoring for voiceover or audiobook recording. However, if you are in a situation where live monitoring can help, you can enable it from the transport menu. In the transport menu, you will find transport options, and then enable audible input monitoring. If that's turned on, your voice will play back through your selected playback device while recording. Some people like to hear themselves live during recording, and this is the option to enable that. We're not using live monitoring here, but now you know where to find it. Everything is set, so let's start recording. Click on the red record button, and you'll see the waveform appear as you speak. Understanding this waveform is important for audio editing and processing. We will see later how to edit and process this audio. Once you've finished recording, click on the stop icon. Now you can see the waveform, and this is the timeline. You can select any part of the waveform, delete unwanted sections, or edit as needed. It is just like editing text. The waveform is a visual representation of your audio. Now that you've recorded something, you might want to save or export it. Note that this isn't yet an audio file. We can either save it as an Audacity project, export as an audio file, or do both. Let's see how to save as a project. If you go to File, Save Project, you can choose to save project. You'll see options to save it either to the cloud or your computer. I do not recommend using the cloud option as it will be on the internet, and you will have less control. Choose to save on your computer. If you do not want to see these options, and always save on your computer, you can check the Remember My Choice option. I will choose to save to computer. I have to choose a location where I want to save this project. Once saved in a location, I can reopen this project at any later time and start working from where I left off. I will choose the folder Audacity Projects on my desktop. I have to give the project a name. I will name it Demo Project YouTube. After naming it, click Save. The project is now saved. If I visit the folder where I saved it, I can see it. I am using a Mac. If you are using Windows, the look of the folder will be a bit different, but you know how to navigate on your computer. Please note that this is an Audacity project, not an audio file. If I double-click this file, it will open in Audacity. To demonstrate it, I will close the current Audacity window. I will go back to the folder and double-click the Audacity project. You can see it is now opened in Audacity, exactly as I saved it. Please note that Audacity does not have an autosave feature. So every time you open a project, it will open from the last saved state. The Audacity project we saved can only be opened in Audacity. If you need to send the audio file that you recorded, you need to export it as an MP3 or WAV. To do that, go to File, Export Audio. You have to give the file a name. The default is the project name, and if I want to change it, I can, or keep it as it is. Then you have to choose a location where you want to export this audio file. The process of choosing the location is the same as I just did for saving project. I will choose the training folder. You have to choose a format for the file. The most popular are MP3 and WAV. I recommend using WAV while you're still working on the audio, as it's lossless and uncompressed, meaning the audio quality stays the same. Once you're finished and ready to upload, you can export as MP3. Click Export, and now if you check your training folder, you'll see the exported WAV file. We just completed a full circle of recording audio and getting an audio file from it. However, the main purpose of using software like Audacity is to enhance the recording through various audio effects. You can see all the effects available in Audacity from the Effect menu. It may seem a lot, but once you understand a few of these, things become easier. I will show you in a moment how to apply some of the important effects. There are two groups of effects in this menu. The top effects are built-in effects in Audacity. If you install Audacity, you will see these effects. These effects are grouped by the purpose they serve. For example, the effects in volume and compression are used when you need to increase or decrease the loudness. When you need to remove noise, you have to use effects for noise reduction. We will explore the commonly used effects. There is another group of effects down here. These are third-party effects that have to be installed outside Audacity. There are many cases where third-party effects perform better than built-in effects. Sometimes, third-party effects offer a solution that the built-in effects lack. We will see all those things eventually in this tutorial. Let's learn how to apply effects to make the sound better. I am going to show you a very simple process to improve your voiceover in Audacity. The process I am going to show is effective for professional voiceover, audiobook narration, podcasts, or any type of voice-related work. This is a 5-step process, and there are actually 2 ways to use it. The first way is automatic, and the second way is manual. In the automatic process, you will do it in 1 click. In the manual process, you adjust everything yourself. I'll show you both methods in detail. Let's start with the automatic process. This is a raw recording, and if I play it, you can hear how it sounds right now. To play the audio, click the point on the waveform where you want to start. Then press the play icon or press the spacebar on the keyboard.
Some people claim that all aerators are created equal. Well, we beg to differ. Ranch works past.
As you heard, the raw recording volume seems quite low, which is normal for a raw recording. The raw recording followed the best practices of recording. However, some processing still needs to be done for the final audio. I will do that using a 1-click method. I'll process this recording with just one click. I'll double-click to select the audio, then go to the Tools menu. I will go to Apply Macro, and you will see lots of macros here. These macros are basically a collection of audio effects. If I select one, all the audio effects inside that macro will be applied to this recording. However, in your Audacity, you will not see this many macros. I will tell you in a moment where you can get these macros. I will choose the Clear Vocal macro. This clear macro makes the audio clear and crisp to listen to. I will select it, and the macro will be applied. The audio improves instantly with just one click. You could see the waveform grow in height after applying the macro. An increase in height means the audio has become louder. Let's listen to the audio and see how much it has improved.
Some people claim that all aerators are created equal. Well, we beg to differ. Ranchworks Pasture aerators are engineered with forward.
You can see that with just one click, I've improved the audio a lot. It's not only about increasing the volume. The macro also adjusts the loudness balance and tone. You can either build your own macros or use the ones I've already created. If you're interested in using my macros, you can visit the page linked in the description. I have an EQ and macro pack that includes 11 different macros you can use to make your audio sound better. You can also check out the Audacity bundle, which includes these macros, several Audacity courses, and personal feedback from me through the lessons. All the links will be in the description if you'd like to explore them. Let me show you how easy it is to install the macros. Once you purchase the macros or Audacity bundle, you will get the macros and EQs zip file. Unzip that file, and you will get the macros and EQs folder. In the macros and EQs folder, there will be several files and folders. You will see an installation guide in the installation guide PDF. I am covering every detail of the installation process here, but if you need to see the instructions again, you can check from this PDF guide. There is a folder that contains all the macros for versions older than 3.5.1. These macros have been successfully helping people to improve their audio for the last 5 years. With different Audacity updates, I kept it updated with the recent version. It is more likely that you are using Audacity version 3.6 or 3.7. If you are using the latest 3.7 version of Audacity, you have the macros in this folder. However, you do not have to install it directly from this folder here. You have to install these macros from Audacity, and I am going to show you how to do that. Once you have downloaded the zip file and unzipped it, go to Audacity. In Audacity, go to Tools menu, and then Macro Manager. You have to import the macros one by one from the Macro Manager. Click on the Import button, and you have to go to the directory where the macros are. You know where you have kept the macros on your computer. I have the macros in this location, so I will go here. As I said, for the recent Audacity 3.7.5, the macros are in this folder. I will go to the folder, and select a macro that I want to install. The first macro I will install is the Clear Vocal. Please note that there is no way to install all the macros at once, so you have to install one at a time. I have the Clear Vocal selected, and I will click Open. The macro has been successfully installed. In the Macro Manager, you will see the installed macros on the left side. This way, you can install all the macros. I can now use the macro in Audacity. Every time I need to use the Clear Vocal macro, I will go to Tools and Apply Macro. You can see the Clear Vocal macro here, and all the macros I have installed. As I told you, you can get either only the macros or you can get the Audacity bundle that includes all the macros. Now, let's get back to Audacity and see how to improve the sound manually. This is the original recording, and we'll follow a 5-step process. For each step, I will explain why we are doing that step, and how to execute it. Step 1 is to normalize the audio. Normalization means setting the peak level of your audio. We will see in a moment what the peak means, and how it affects your audio. To normalize, select your track by double-clicking inside it, and go to the Effect menu. Then Volume and Compression, Normalize. You can see the configuration window for the Normalize effect. Every effect has its own set of configurations. Some of the parameters need to be configured, and some of the default values are okay. I will get to the default settings of Normalize from the presets and settings. From Factory Presets, select Default, and you will see the default configurations of Normalize. We do not need to worry about the first and third checkboxes. They can be as it is. The first checkbox is about removing the DC offset. Modern recording equipment usually does not have issues with DC offset. However, keeping it on does no harm, so we will keep it checked. The third checkbox is about stereo channels. We recorded the audio in mono, so we are not concerned about that either. Even if we have recorded in a stereo channel, we will not need independent normalization of channels most of the time. As I said before, we are mainly interested in setting the peak level for Normalize. The peak means the highest loudness point of a recording. Every audio has a particular value as its peak. Through Normalize, we can set the peak level we need. In the default settings, you can see that the peak amplitude is set at -1 dB. We'll change it to -3 dB. You may ask, why we would set it to -3 dB. There is a reason to set it to -3 dB, and it is important to understand the reason. All our next processing depends on this. The page you are seeing now is the ACX audio requirements. ACX audio requirements are the standards for publishing audiobooks. If you wish to publish an audiobook on sites like Audible, your audio has to follow these standards. However, if voiceover or professional quality audio is your goal, you can also follow the ACX standards. Audio that fully meets the ACX requirements is also accepted on other platforms. If you can follow all the requirements from ACX, your audio will sound clean, professional, and will be good enough for professional voiceover, audiobooks, podcasts, and content creation. The peak level requirement of ACX is that it should be below -3 dB. That is why we want to set the peak as -3 dB through Normalize. Let's get back to Audacity. You now know why we have to set -3 as the peak value in Normalize settings, but how it will affect our audio. Once you change the peak through Normalize, the volume of the audio will increase or decrease. So you can think of Normalize as a volume control knob. When you adjust a volume control knob, it affects all the audio at the same level of increase or decrease. We can understand that even before we apply the Normalize effect. Let's try to understand that first, and then we will apply the Normalize effect. How normalization affects the audio is a fundamental audio concept. Your audio editing skill depends on how well you understand the Normalize effect. There is an external tool in Audacity called ACX Check. I will use it, but you may not have this tool. I will put a link to a description of where this ACX Check tool can be downloaded and installed. I will show you how to install this ACX Check just after showing the application of Normalize effect. The ACX Check shows 3 technical measurements of the audio. For now, we are interested in the peak level. But please keep in mind, these 3 values are tied in a linear fashion. That means if I increase the value of one thing, the value of others will also increase. If I increase the peak, the RMS and noise floor will also increase. This linear connection among these 3 values is important to understand. The current peak level of this audio is -12.78 dB. The required peak level is -3 according to the ACX audio requirements. That means the peak level of this audio is lower than what is required. If we set the peak level to -3, the level will increase. Please note that all the audio levels we are talking about are of negative value. That's why -3 is more than -12. In this meter, the right you go, the more the volume. From all these analyses, we now know that the volume level will increase if we adjust the peak to -3 dB for this audio. Because the current peak level is around -12, and we will set the new peak to -3 dB. That is a 9 dB increase in the volume. Please note that this will not happen for every recording. It always depends on what the current peak level is, and what the new peak level we are setting through Normalize. The main point is to set the peak level at -3, so that the later processing becomes easier. Now, I'll go back to Normalize effect, and finally apply -3 dB peak. All these discussions around normalization are important to proceed further. If you do not understand everything now, no worries. Apply this -3 dB peak to your different recordings, and see what changes are happening. Sometimes the audio level may increase or decrease. When you normalize, the audio volume may increase or decrease depending on the original level. For example, this recording had a peak of -12 dB, so normalizing to -3 dB means about a 9 dB increase. I will apply these settings, and you will see the waveform grow in height after normalization. That means an increase in the loudness level. After normalization, I will check the ACX values again. It is not required to check the ACX values to get a better sound. I am doing this to understand how audio processing is affecting my audio quality. It will help me to decide how to apply different effects in this audio. Checking again with ACX, we see the peak is now -3 dB, and the RMS is -23.18 dB. So you see, after the increase in the peak, the RMS has also increased. However, it is not in the ideal range yet. We will not worry about the RMS yet, we will learn how to fix the RMS as we progress along. Let's see how to install this ACX check so that you can measure different levels of the audio. The ACX check does not come with the default Audacity installation. You have to download and install it from the Audacity plugin website. This is the Audacity plugin website, and I will give this link in the description. You can see the acxcheck.ny file can be downloaded from here. .ny means it is a Nyquist plugin. Audacity supports many different types of plugins, and Nyquist is one of them. When we explore third-party plugins, we will know more about different plugin types. You can check the details to see the features and limitations of the plugin. You may not understand everything about it, but it is a good practice to be familiar with technical terms. To download the file, click on the download. The download will start, and choose a location to save the file. I will save it to the downloads folder. I downloaded it previously, and I will replace it. After the download is complete, go to Audacity. From the Tools menu, choose the Nyquist plugin installer. Different types of plugins have different ways to install, and Nyquist plugins are the easiest to install. Browse to the location where you downloaded the file and open it. I have saved it to the Downloads folder, and I will browse to that location. We can see the acx.ny here. I will select and open. I already have it installed, so it is not allowing me to install it again. You will not see this error message, and it will be successfully installed on your machine. After installing it, you will see the ACX check in the Analyze menu. However, if the ACX check does not appear on your Audacity after installing it, you have to do several things. First, check the Plugin Manager under the Analyze menu. The ACX check should be listed here, and it should be enabled. If not, rescan, and the list will be updated. Even if it does not appear after a rescan, restart Audacity. If all that fails, restart your computer and open Audacity again. Once you see the ACX check appearing, you can start using it to see values of peak, RMS, and noise floor and adjust your processing workflow. However, we are only at the beginning of our processing workflow. The first step we took was the normalization. Step 2 is the noise reduction. Noise reduction may or may not be necessary depending on your recording. This audio isn't very noisy, as you can see the ACX shows the noise floor is passing. However, this isn't the case most of the time. After normalization, you will see that your audio is failing on the noise floor. The audio sample I am working with is from a professional voiceover artist, and he has a very good room setup. We may not have such a proper setup, so let's explore how to reduce background noise. If your recording has a loud hiss or constant background sound, you'll definitely need noise reduction. Please note that only constant hissing noise or white background noise can be reduced using Audacity's noise reduction. If you have irregular noise like dog barking, car honks, or other people talking nearby, Audacity's noise reduction will not reduce that. Audacity's noise reduction is a two-step process. On the first step, you have to give Audacity a noise sample. Based on that sample, Audacity will know what the noise sounds like, and remove that kind of noise. To give this noise sample, select a part of the audio that only has background noise, no speaking, and go to Effect, Noise Removal and Repair, Noise Reduction. Though I have selected the noise sample from the beginning, you can select a noise sample from anywhere in the audio as long as that is the noise you are trying to remove. For step 1, you have to click Get Noise Profile. This tells Audacity what your noise sounds like. After giving the noise sample to Audacity, you have to select the audio from where you want to reduce the noise. For us, it would be the whole track, and I will select everything by double-clicking. Go to the noise reduction effect again. This time we will configure the noise reduction settings. You'll see 3 main settings. Noise reduction, dB, that is how much noise to remove. Sensitivity, that is how aggressively Audacity detects noise. Frequency smoothing bands, helps fill small gaps left after noise reduction. Let's explore each setting in detail, starting with sensitivity. The higher the sensitivity, the aggressive Audacity will be in reducing noise. While that may look like a good choice on the surface, that is actually not the case. The more aggressive you set the sensitivity, the harsher the audio will be after noise reduction. Noise reduction introduces harshness, and makes the audio thinner. So the sensitivity should be good enough to detect the noise, but not too much. A sensitivity of 6 works well for voiceover. For frequency smoothing bands, you should use 6. As I said earlier, noise reduction introduces a gap in audio data that makes the sound harsh. Frequency smoothing bands try to remove that gap, so that the audio does not feel thin. For voice recordings, a setting of 6 works well for all 3, 6 dB noise reduction, sensitivity 6, and smoothing 6. However, in some cases, the amount of noise reduction needed is more than 6. You can calculate the amount from the current noise floor. You have to calculate how much noise reduction is needed to reach -60 dB. For example, if your current noise floor is -50 dB, you will need a 10 dB reduction to reach -60 dB. Whatever the case, the noise reduction amount should not be more than 12 dB. That will introduce noticeable harshness in the audio. Sometimes people listen to their audio through a laptop speaker, so the harshness goes unnoticed. But if you listen to it through good headphones, you will notice the audio sounds thin after too much noise reduction. For this example, I will set it to 12 dB. If you need more than 12 dB noise reduction to reach -60 dB in noise floor in the ACX check, your recording setup is not right. I'll apply the effect and check with ACX values. Please note that Audacity's noise reduction has limited capability. For better noise reduction, you have to use a third-party plugin. As this is a beginner-friendly Audacity tutorial, I will keep the scope limited to Audacity. You can see the noise floor has now dropped from around -60 dB to -72 dB. Now we've done 2 steps, normalize and noise reduction. Step 3 is EQ, equalization. The order of the effects is important, because each effect prepares the audio for the next effect. If you mess up the order, you may not get the intended result with audio processing. If you want all the steps and their configuration as a PDF guide, you can get it from me. I will put a link to get this PDF guide where I have shown all the steps with screenshots. Let's get back to Audacity and discuss the EQ process in a bit of detail. EQ is a complex effect, but we'll keep it simple with a basic EQ. To do the EQ, go to Effect, EQ and Filter, Filter Curve EQ. We do the EQ by drawing a curve here. I will go back to the default preset so that you know what change I will be making. This is the default EQ curve, which is a flat line at 0 dB. On the left side, you can see some positive numbers on the upper half and negative numbers on the lower half. On the x-axis below, you can see frequency numbers like 20 Hz, 40 Hz to 20 kHz. EQ is the process of manipulating volumes by frequency. In the default preset, the line is at 0 dB for all frequencies. If you made an adjustment at the line in a particular frequency, then we are adding an EQ to the audio. That's the theory, but what should we actually do for our recording? For a voice recording, I will start with a factory preset. From the factory preset, go to the low roll-off for speech. That means, it will give us an EQ curve that is used to roll off the low end of the speech. You can see the curve that is rolled off in the low frequency areas. Why this roll off? Well, to understand that, you have to know a bit about our talking frequencies. While we talk, it is actually a combination of overlapping frequencies. The lowest frequency is called the fundamental frequency. If you search the internet for fundamental frequency, you will see that it starts from 80 Hz for men and around 130 Hz for women. That means, our voice does not generate frequencies lower than 80 Hz in general. So if we take out the lower frequencies from our recording, it will not take anything from our voice. However, there can be some noise in the low frequency areas. A low roll-off can take down such noise if there is any. This roll-off has been started from 100 Hz. I will drag the dots so that the roll begins from 80 Hz. If you click on these lines, such dots appear. I am cutting off frequency below 80 Hz, which is also called a high-pass filter. This removes low-frequency noise, like hum or vibration, that doesn't exist in human speech. You can stop here, but if you want your voice to sound brighter, you can slightly boost frequencies above 4 kHz. However, be careful, too much can make your voice sound harsh. Please note that I click on the line, and then those dots appear. I can drag them to adjust the lines. For now, I'll stick to the high-pass filter only, a simple and safe starting point. If I drag the dots out of this window, they will disappear. Apply it, and the EQ step is done. Step 4 is compression. This is another complex effect, and many people do not understand why to use it. Also, many people use it in a wrong settings that has no impact on the audio. If you pay close attention to the waveform, you can see that some are taller and some are shorter. The taller waveforms are louder than the shorter waveforms. In technical terms, the difference between louder and softer talks is called the dynamic range. The job of the compressor is to reduce the dynamic range. In other words, the compressor reduced the loudness gap between the loudest and softest parts of the audio. By doing so, the audio sound is balanced and every part of the audio can be heard smoothly. You can apply compressor from Effect, Volume and Compression, Compressor. At first glance, it looks like a lot of configuration, but you can configure it easily using a factory preset. From Factory Preset, choose the lead vocals. We will not use the lead vocals exactly, but it has some generic configuration that works for voiceover. We can use the look ahead, attack, and release as it is. In the compression curve, we will adjust 2 settings, threshold and ratio. A compressor becomes active when audio passes the threshold level. For example, if I set the threshold to -25.6 dB, the compressor will be active on those points where the audio is louder than -25.6 dB. However, if I set a new threshold point like -13.9, the compressor will be active only when audio levels pass -13.9 dB. So now the question is, what is the ideal value for the threshold? Well, there is no single ideal value for the threshold. It depends on the recording itself and how much compression you are looking for. For a moderate compression, I would suggest using something between -12 and -18. For this audio, I will set it to -15. If I see the audio is too much compressed, I would use a higher value than -15. If the audio needs more compression, then I would have to use something lower than -15. We will see in a moment if this audio is ideally compressed, or if we should do anything different. The ratio is the actual amount of compression. If the audio exceeds the threshold, it will be compressed by the ratio we set. For example, if I set the ratio to 2, then for every 2 dB increase in audio level after threshold, we will hear only 1 dB. These are technical definitions, but in simple words, the higher the ratio you set, the more compressed it will be. The compressor settings allow you to set a ratio of 100, but it is impractical. For our use case, the ratio has to be something between 2 and 4. Once again, like the threshold, you may have to use a different ratio if the compression is too much or less, depending on the situation. Let's say I will use the ratio 2.7 for this audio. We do not need to change any other settings for a typical voiceover. I will apply these settings. You can see some of the waveform peaks shrink after applying the compressor. That's normal. That means the compressor has compressed something. But is it too much or too little? To understand that, we have to apply one final effect. Before that, let's check the condition of ACX values. I will go to Analyze, ACX Check. At the beginning of this processing, we set the peak to -3. But after the compression, the peak has decreased to -7.76. Because the compressor has compressed the higher peaks. It is the normal behavior of the compressor. However, to understand if the compressor has worked okay, we have to check the RMS. The RMS should be in the accepted range after we apply another effect after the compressor. That is out final step 5, normalize. We already saw how to apply the normalize effect. I will set the peak to -3 dB again using normalize. Normalize if the only effect that I am using twice in the processing flow. If we check ACX again, everything passes, peak, RMS, and noise floor are all within range. The RMS has passed, which means the compressor was okay. This recording is now ready and sounds much better. Let's listen to a few seconds of the final result.
Some people claim that all aerators are created equal. Well, we beg to differ. Ranchworks Pastor aerators are engineered with forged ranch tech.
You can see that by following these 5 steps, your sound improves significantly. This process is a great starting point for anyone looking to improve their voiceover or spoken audio like audiobooks or podcasts quality. There are some other effects you need to learn for advanced audio processing, but to keep this video beginner-friendly, I am not including all those advanced things in this video. All those effects are discussed in detail in my Audacity course for beginners. This course is also part of the Audacity bundle, so you can either get the course or the bundle. I'll put all the links in the description. We will now see how to edit your audio in Audacity, and how to navigate around the software. This is a very important skill. The more confident you are in editing your audio and navigating Audacity, the better your performance will be. Because you will know what to do in case you make any mistakes during recording. Editing means removing unwanted parts of the audio, reducing silent gaps, or moving recorded audio by copying and pasting. Navigation means moving around Audacity to do a specific task. It is important to be confident with software like Audacity to succeed in voiceover and audiobooks. So let's see some navigation scenarios. Once you go through them, you'll know how to use Audacity confidently. Sometimes you'll make mistakes during recording, and you'll need to remove those parts. It's very easy to remove any part of your recording in Audacity. Select the part you want to delete by dragging your mouse and delete. You can press the delete key on your keyboard, or you can delete from the edit menu. If you accidentally delete something you didn't mean to, you can undo it. Press Ctrl+Z on Windows or Command+Z on Mac, or go to Edit, Undo from the menu. That's how you delete and undo deletions in Audacity. Sometimes, you may also want to copy a part of your audio and paste it somewhere else. For example, let's say you want to copy a section of your audio and paste it into another part of the same waveform. Just drag to select that portion, right-click, and choose Copy. You can also use keyboard shortcut Ctrl+C or Command+C. Then, move your cursor to the position where you want to paste, right-click again, and choose Paste, or use Ctrl+V/Command+V. You'll see that the copied part now appears there. So that's how you can copy, paste, and delete audio in Audacity. However, sometimes the copy-paste behavior might not be exactly what you are looking for. It can give you an error, or show some strange behavior. If that happens, you have to check Audacity Preferences. In Audacity Preferences, there is an option for Tracks Behavior. You will find this under Tracks. Inside the Tracks Behavior section, you'll see checkboxes for always paste audio as new clips and editing a clip can move other clips. If I only select always paste audio as new clips, all the newly copied audio will create a clip. However, if the editing a clip can move other clips is not checked, you will get an error. Let me show what I mean. I only checked the always paste audio as new clips checkbox. I will try to paste the previously copied audio. You can see it is showing an error. If you see this error, you should check the preference. To fix it, I will go to the preferences again. I have to check the editing a clip can move other clips checkbox. If I try to copy and paste now, the error will not show. Let's see how it affects the process. I will paste the already copied audio again. This time, it has created a new clip. Because I set that in Audacity preferences. Whenever I copy and paste, a new clip will be created. Creating clips in this way may or may not be desirable depending on your use case. If you do not want to create clips every time you copy and paste, you have to uncheck those options from preferences. Depending on which version of Audacity you are using, these can be your default behavior. If you prefer the clip creation, keep this checked, otherwise uncheck, and no clip will be created. Usually, I keep the options unchecked because I prefer simpler editing. You can join the clips to blend into the tracks. Select the clips by dragging your mouse. After selecting, go to Edit, Audio Clips. You can see a join option here. You see, those clips are joined and blended in the track. Sometimes, you may need to see your waveform in more detail. In such cases, you'll need to zoom in. There are some buttons here for zoom-related functions. To zoom in, click the zoom in icon. You can zoom in multiple times. To zoom out, click on zoom out icon. For precise waveform editing, zooming in and zooming out helps. There are some other zoom icons here. Let's see them one by one. For the fit selection to width working, we need to select a part of the audio. I'll show you that in a moment. The fit project to width icon will take all your waveforms and show them on one screen. You can see the full 22 seconds of the audio on the screen. Let's now see how the fit selection to width works. First, you have to select a part of the waveform. I have selected this part, and now if I click on the fit selection to width, it will expand over the full screen. There is also a zoom toggle button at the end. If you use that, it will toggle between your zoomed and unzoomed state. I suggest you practice all this zoom functionality a bit. Sometimes it is needed to have precise editing, so having experience with these zoom icons will help you to become confident in Audacity. This is how you zoom, navigate, and view your project more effectively. Another useful option is silence audio selection. If you select a portion and click the silence audio selection button, that part becomes completely silent. For example, if I apply it to this waveform, everything within the selection will turn silent. This part has become completely silent. If I play this part, you will see nothing appearing on the meters. However, you need to be careful when using this feature. For example, if you're preparing for an ACX audiobook, dead silence is often not accepted. If you just want a quiet background instead, it's better to use room tone instead of total silence. Now, let's look at duplicating tracks. Select everything on the track by double-clicking, and then go to the Edit menu. You will see a duplicate option here. If you duplicate the track, then an identical track will appear below. You can see a copy of the track that has been made below. This type of duplicating is useful when you need to compare. For example, applying some effects on a track and comparing with the original, or experimenting with different audio effects in different tracks. When you have multiple tracks, you can use the solo and mute buttons. If you click solo on one track, only that track will be active while others are muted. If you click mute, that track will be muted. These options are helpful when mixing or editing multiple voices or music layers. I will make only the top track active, and we will see the use of the loop button. I play the selected part, it will be played only once.
Record something.
I will activate the loop functionality. Use this loop button. If I now play the audio, it will be played in a loop until I stop.
Record something. Record something. Record something.
You see that the audio has been played in a loop. Now let's explore how to record a new track when one already exists. Let's say you have already recorded some audio in a track, and you want to record some other audio in another track. If I press the record button now, the newly recorded audio appears after the track. We do not want that. We want the newly recorded audio to appear in another track. I recorded this audio with the wrong microphone. I will change it back to my desired mic from this drop-down. If you mouse hover the record button, you can see there is another option for recording a new track with Shift+R. I pressed Shift+R. The audio has now been recorded in a new track, but it has started recording from the cursor position as where the playhead was. To record from any other position, you just have to click on that point in the track and then press Shift+R. You can see the audio has now started recording from the beginning, because I have taken my cursor or the playhead to that place. The default behavior of Audacity is that when you press the record button, it will start recording on the same track. But when you press Shift+R, it will start recording on a new track. But you can change this behavior from Audacity's preferences. If you go to Audacity Preferences, you can enable the option, Record on a new track. If you check this box, then every time you record the audio, it will be recorded in a new track. It is up to you which way you prefer. If you want to record in a new track, you can change it in Audacity Preferences. If you want a more detailed guide and a structured learning experience with Audacity, you can check out my Audacity courses. These courses are inside the Audacity bundle. If you access the Audacity bundle, you get the courses, or you can purchase the course separately. I will give all the links in the description. We need to learn some more things in Audacity, and this video is not complete yet. When that video comes out, I'll put a link to it in the comments.